The midnight forest of the Between stretched endlessly in all directions, the path illuminated by Sarah's wayfinder stone, the only certainty in this impossible place. They had been walking for what felt like hours, though time seemed meaningless here. The stars overhead never moving, the darkness never lifting. "How much farther?" Sarah asked, her voice hushed in the strange silence of the forest. Despite the dense trees surrounding them, there were no animal sounds, no rustling leaves, only the soft glow of bioluminescent fungi and their own footfalls. Thomas consulted his compass, its face swirling with symbols Sarah couldn't decipher. "Thomas? Distance is complicated in the Between," he replied. "It's not how far we walk, but how clearly we hold our destination in mind. Ellis, the library exists in many places, and no place. It's as much a state of being as a location." Sarah suppressed a sigh. Every answer they gave only spawned more questions. She stopped abruptly. "Did you hear that?" The others froze, listening intently. For a moment there was nothing. Then a sound like distant voices, speaking words just beyond comprehension. "Memory echoes," Ellis whispered, his expression tense. The Between preserves fragments of forgotten conversations, moments lost to time. The whispers grew louder, surrounding them now, coming from between the trees. "Thomas." "They're usually harmless," Thomas added, though his hand moved to his pocket where Sarah knew he kept a small silver knife. "But since the collectors breached the cottage, the Between has been unsettled." Sarah clutched her wayfinder tighter, its light pulsing faster. "They're getting closer." "We need to move," Ellis urged. "Quickly now." They hurried forward, the path winding deeper into the forest. The whispers followed, growing more distinct with each step. "Find the wayfinder. Horizon requires immediate extraction. Subject displays unusual compatibility." Sarah's blood ran cold. These weren't random memory echoes. These were communications, recent ones about her. "Thomas, they're tracking us through the echoes," Thomas said grimly. "The collectors can't enter the Between directly, but they can listen through it." "How is that possible?" Sarah asked, her pace quickening to match the others. Ellis's face was grim. "Someone's been teaching them the old ways. Someone who shouldn't have." They all froze at the sound. "That wasn't an echo," Thomas whispered. "We're not alone." From between the trees, a figure emerged. Not a shadow collector, but something else entirely. It appeared human-shaped, but was composed of what looked like torn pages and ink, its form constantly shifting and reforming, words visible across its surface. Sound effect, rustling paper. Ellis breathed, "A lexicon." His face was pale. "I thought they were extinct." The creature tilted what passed for its head, regarding them with hollow spaces where eyes should be. When it spoke, its voice sounded like pages, turning rapidly. "The librarian sends greetings," it said, words appearing and disappearing across its form as it spoke. "And warnings, the collectors have breached the outer shelves. The library is under siege. We seek sanctuary and counsel. The girl carries a wayfinder." The Lexicon's attention shifted to Sarah, its paper body rustling as it moved closer. "Show it," Ellis whispered to Sarah. "It won't harm you." Hesitantly, Sarah extended her hand, the wayfinder stone glowing steadily in her palm. The Lexicon leaned in, its paper face inches from the stone. "The third wayfinder awakens," it said, something like wonder in its papery voice. "The triangle completes." "Triangle?" Sarah asked. "What triangle?" The Lexicon straightened. "Follow, quickly." The shadows approached from multiple vectors. As if to emphasize its point, a sound like rushing wind rose behind them, and the whispers returned, louder, angrier, more purposeful. "Run!" Thomas shouted, all pretense of stealth abandoned. The Lexicon moved with surprising speed, its paper body flowing between trees with fluid grace. They followed, the path beneath their feet shifting, turning at impossible angles that somehow still allowed them to run without falling. The forest around them began to change, the trees thinning the spaces between them, filling with what looked like enormous bookshelves stretching into the darkness above. "The outer archives!" Ellis panted as they ran. "We're approaching the library's perimeter!" The rushing sound behind them grew louder. Sarah risked a glance back and immediately wished she hadn't. The forest path behind them was being consumed by a wave of churning shadow, advancing faster than they could run. "We won't make it," she gasped. The Lexicon stopped abruptly at what appeared to be a dead end, a massive wall of ancient books blocking their path. Thomas demanded, "Why are we stopping?" The paper creature turned to Sarah. "The wayfinder must open the way. It is written." Sarah looked down at the stone in her hand, then at the wall of books before them. "How? I don't know what to do." The wave of shadow was nearly upon them, tendrils reaching out like grasping hands. Thomas urged, "Remember what Ellis told you. The paths reveal themselves to those who need to find them." Sarah closed her eyes, clutching the wayfinder stone tightly. She thought of safety, of answers, of the library that might hold them. The stone grew warm in her hand, then hot, not painfully so, but with purpose. When she opened her eyes, a beam of light shot from the stone to the wall of books, illuminating a single volume bound in blue leather. Without thinking, Sarah reached out and pulled the book halfway from the shelf. The entire wall shimmered and dissolved, revealing an arched doorway filled with golden light. Beyond it, endless rows of bookshelves stretched in all directions, floating in what looked like a star-filled void. "The Grand Archive," the Lexicon announced. "Quickly now!" They rushed through the doorway just as the shadow wave crashed against it. The moment they were through, the Lexicon pulled a hanging bookmark, and the doorway sealed behind them, cutting off the howling shadows. Sarah stood in awe, gazing at the impossible library around them. Books floated through the air like fish in water, shelves extended in physically impossible configurations, and distant figures that didn't appear entirely human moved between the stacks. "Welcome," said a new voice, melodic and ancient, from behind them, "to the Library of Lost Memories." They turned to face a tall figure in flowing robes that seemed woven from text itself, words shifting and changing across the fabric. Where a face should be, there was only a gentle glow of light. "I am the Librarian," the figure continued. "And you, Sarah Jensen, are very late for your appointment." Sarah blinked in surprise. "You know my name. You were expecting me." The librarian's robes rippled with what might have been amusement. "My dear, we've had your library card ready for nearly 20 years, ever since your mother left this with us for safekeeping." The librarian extended a hand, revealing a small, worn photograph. Sarah took it with trembling fingers. It showed a younger version of her mother, smiling, standing in front of a familiar-looking tree. And around her neck hung a stone identical to the wayfinder Sarah now carried. "My mother?" Sarah whispered, her world tilting on its axis once again. "Was one of us," Ellis said gently, "a keeper of the paths." And now, the librarian added, "It's time you learned why she had to leave them behind, and why Horizon will stop at nothing."